Welcome to 1850 Main Street, a place where friends get together and talk about their country and hope for a brighter future. Today, Rob Walgate and Alan C. Duncan from the Public Square are joined by David Zanotti, the CEO of the American Policy Roundtable.
Does voting make you feel overwhelmed? Good thing there's a place that can tell you exactly what's going to be on your ballot without trying to tell you who or what to vote for.
So did either of you guys ever think as you were growing up, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to work for a corporation that does a thing called iVoters.com. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go and I'm going to do a voter information site. This is what I'm going to do. No.
No exclamation point.
Yeah, well, you certainly got the T-shirt for it, Rob.
Yeah, I mean, I've got all the T-shirts for it. I've got all the T-shirts.
That's one of the old school ones. Yeah,
Very old
I like
school
that.
One. Yeah. We've done T-shirts so long now they're becoming vintage. They're becoming the old school cool ones.
1998, the American Policy Roundtable went online with voting information in a site called Decision 98, which would ultimately become iVoters.com. And I can tell you that making that decision wasn't easy, and it was not cheap. It was exceptionally expensive. Now, I went back to again, doing research for Christmas in America on the Public Square coming up, and I was checking, 1973 was the first mobile cell phone that actually worked. It was just displayed. The first mobile cell phone call for the public to see happened in 1973.
I had no idea it was that early. I never would have guessed that.
Yep.
No.
The unit was about the size of a shoebox.
Okay. Yeah.
And in today's adjustment for inflation, if you wanted to buy that phone, it would cost you $11,000.
Oh, I'll take two of them, please.
Yeah. So who was it marketed towards? Was this just like a business only thing? Like high-end execs?
Motorola had it. Joey Motorola, you remember that from Night at the Museum?
Oh, yeah.
In part two, Joey Motorola created that phone. And it came out, I think at that time it was $3,something but the actual inflation adjusted to 2023 numbers are plus $11,000, $11,000 plus. Yeah. So we went, and it was expensive to start because new technologies are really, really costly.
Well, just to jump in on that, you could buy a Apple Vision Pro for like $3,500 today. So that was more expensive than getting an Apple Vision Pro now. I just find that crazy. They're the latest VR tech. So very strange.
I mean, why not just sit around and wait for the technology to drop? Well, because this was really an important reality. Moving from the system of paper printed voting information booklets to getting to where you could actually do it online. The printing costs, the paper costs, and the postage costs. I mean, and then the surgical costs of blowing out your back, dragging thousands of these books in those gray, old, dusty mail bags in the back of your car, and then to a bulk mailing to them. I mean, that was a lot of work. The online idea made a lot more sense.
And in today's world, you couldn't do the paper book product. When I think about some of these states that don't have legislative primaries till August, and they're finalizing them at the end of August, some have them in September. So now you're talking about early voting starting in some states in mid to late September. I mean, you could never do all 50 states in that fashion.
Well, can I tell you what the fantasy was when we started in 98? The fantasy was someday you'll enter your street address and your zip code, and you will have a ballot that comes up with races that are only races you will see on your ballot when you walk in on election day, a personalized ballot response.
So you're living the dream right now.
Well, actually, Rob's living the dream.
Rob's living the dream. Is this your dream or your nightmare?
It is a dream. No, but that's what we have, and we try and make it simple and effective for each and every user so that they only see what's on their ballot.
It took a long time.
Do you ever have people that say, because we don't tell people who to vote for.
Right.
This is just, it's who's on the ballot or what's on the ballot. Do you ever have people say, please just tell me who to vote for?
Oh, of course.
Okay.
Don't you? Have them text you?
I do. That's why I'm asking the question.
But I always have the same answer for them.
Okay.
In the sense that I believe we operate at our best when we're an educated electorate. The same reason I want my kids to understand why they do things, not just because I tell them to do it. I unfortunately, I feel like that's what cable news has become today. It just tells people how to think or what to think, and people can't defend an argument. You can't see anyone have any type of substantive debate on an issue because they can't defend the issue. They can only hurl insults or talk down to people. That's frustrating to me. Be educated on what you believe and why, and be able to defend it.
Well, I think the other piece of the puzzle is if you can imagine the spreadsheets, because they are still, now they're electronic spreadsheets, but you've got electronic spreadsheets of candidates from the State House to the White House in all 50 states. I mean, does anyone ever total what the actual number of candidates just in that mechanism alone?
It's tens of thousands. It's millions of field identifiers in the spreadsheets. No, it's chaos. And I just got an email as we're doing it from our web developer asking me a question on a spreadsheet I updated. That's the great thing about the online spreadsheet is when there are changes or when someone's candidacy, you wouldn't believe the amount of the number of candidates that like after the primary or mid campaign decide to change their website name because they found, something more effective to reach people or something else.
Thanks
you're like,
a lot.
Yeah. You're like, what are you doing? Or when you're talking about state house races, you are going to have changes across the country of people that are on the ballot. I mean, unfortunately, you're going to have people that pass away after the primary. You're going to have news that comes out that someone did something really, really bad and they've been removed by the party from the ballot and someone else is going to run in that position. I mean, there's so many. Let's look at the top of the ticket on the Democrat Party.
Someone's just going to get a little too old and they're going to do bad in a debate. And we're aged out.
Just move over that way a little bit.
It happens.
Yeah, it happens. So we're doing that.
There's a difference between a voter's guide and between iVoters.com. The idea of attempting to guide someone into the voting decision and using tools that are designed to explain whether someone's more conservative, more liberal. And there are voter guides that get done all over the place, all left, right, center, and telling people on a specific issue. And this is a free country. Fortunately, people have the right to do that. And our attitude is the more the merrier in that regard, provided that there's an ethical component to it and it's transparent. You don't do that. You don't tell people who to vote for. You do not rate candidates. You do not establish rating boards that or a grid of these 6 issues, therefore. That's not the game you're playing.
No, it's not the game we're playing, because some of the times when you see those guides where they're trying to guide you a certain way, you'll see where a candidate stands on an issue and they'll have 6 of them. The problem will be is 4 of those issues, that candidate may never cast a vote on any of those 4 issues. They may be irrelevant. Those 4 issues may not even matter or come into play. The other thing is we provide information and endorsements, not from us, but from other folks, people on the far, far left and people on the far, far right and people in the middle. And you can see who they support and why they support those candidates. It also allows people, I talked to a business owner last week, and they're not someone that I thought would geek out on this stuff, but they geek out on it. They geek out on the local, everything down. We talk about, we do State House to the White House. We do all statewide. We do ballot issues. We cover all these things. We wouldn't have the ability to dive deep in all 50 states and every local community. But this guy talked about the fact he loves getting all the information and then geeking out and doing all the research and nerding out all over the ballot and taking notes on everyone.
So you hired him, right? You hired him for next year.
From local school board to judges. But he
do a commercial for us?
He does it in a way where he's like, he wants to be, because here's why I said, he wants to be able, when that comes up at the Friday night football game or on the bonfire in the backyard, on the cul-de-sac in the neighborhood, he wants to be able to have an educated opinion and not just ramble. He wants to be able to give information that's valid, because let's face it, and the Obama campaign talked about this a lot. People listen to their neighbors, right? People talk to their neighbors, the ones they respect, the ones they want to, the ones they know that don't have an agenda. They respect their opinion.
iVoters.com changes everything about the way we process elections. Instead of negative TV and radio ads and biased opinions from editorial boards, now people in all 50 states can get the facts about candidates and ballot issues from a nonpartisan, independent source. iVoters is fast, free, secure, and powerful. With iVoters, you can vote with confidence and encourage others to do the same. Free minds, free speech, free agents. iVoters.com, a public service of the American Policy Roundtable.
So the idea behind iVoters is a one-stop shop. That was another critical mass moment going the whole way back to 1998, where you can go to one place and you can see a whole bunch of stuff. You can see candidate ratings from different organizations, left, right, middle. You can find the social media of the candidates you're looking at. You can find their educational background. You can find their family history. There's all kinds of stuff that you can find there. And you're on one space. So you basically, first off, you start with only the candidates that you need to research because they're the ones you're going to be voting on. You don't have to scour through. You don't have to know their names. I bet that's the biggest reason why people don't go onto sites like this, is because they know they don't know the names, and so they don't know where they're going to start looking for. Now, that's a bad place to be, and most of us are. If I say to most people right now, tell me the name of your state rep, your state senator, and your United States congressperson, they're like, give me a second. All right. And no search engines allowed. So, I mean, this is what causes, it's what we don't know that stops us dead in our tracks. And iVoters mitigates against that. Put your street address and your zip code, and ask your wife if you forgot your zip code, or ask your husband. If you don't have to remember your zip code. Somebody will tell you. Get close. Just get close.
Yeah, we'll guide you that way. And you talked about that. If you don't know your state rep, state senator, member of Congress, we understand sometimes the political process can be an intimidating one, and it shouldn't be that way. And I know I've talked about this before, but that's why I like to take my kids with me when we vote, my wife and I. We like to take them so they can see the process. So that way, if you are in your 30s or 40s and you've never voted before, let's face it, the older we get, the more apprehensive we get about doing things for the first time. We want to make our children comfortable with that so they can see that, oh, yeah, that's the expectation. That's what we do. We go vote. But they also know that we've been on iVoters and done the research and done the homework. And we talked about the issue. I mean, we talked about on the public square constitutional issues earlier this week. There are plenty of states that are facing constitutional amendments in their state constitution. iVoters, you'll be able to see the exact language. You'll be able to do the research for yourself and understand.
I just did that this morning. I went to Florida to recheck out the Florida ballot language because I wanted again to get an understanding in its totality. And I mean, there's an amendment that's very brief and yet its volume of potential ramifications is immeasurable, and it's basically a sentence. So how are you going to go get that sentence broken down so you know what the words mean? You got to be able to see it first, and you can see it at iVoters.com. It's really important.
I think it's also important to say that you can do these deep dives that you guys are discussing on there. Or you could simply pull it up last minute inside the ballot box yourself, and it's simple enough that you could get the answers that you need. It's not overwhelming. I guess that's the point. So you can go as deep as you want to, but you could also stay at the surface if that's what you need as well.
To me, a great tool in the realm of public policy and politics is one that avoids arguments. And that, to me, is one of the things that from the beginning, how much money is it going to cost us to create a site so that rather than arguing with someone, you could simply say, hey, I'm going to send you this site. In fact, it's iVoters.com. Just go there right now. Punch in your zip code and go look for yourself. All right? Look for yourself and see what you think about this candidate, this race, this issue. Go and look. No argument.
Well, and I think I mentioned on the public square when we talked about this, and maybe it was 1850. They're all running together at this point, but in my mind. But I talked about sharing iVoters with my pastor, and it's something. So if you go to a church, It's something that you can share, and it's not going to be offensive in some way. You're not sending them a yard sign of your favorite political candidate and hoping that they like that candidate too. It's a nonpartisan site. And so it's very easy to share with your pastor, with your friends, your family.
I got a text message from pastor over the weekend. He's like, hey, can you bring me 250 cards? I want to hand them out at church and just encourage everyone in the congregation to visit the site.
The only way you could get mad about iVoters.com is if you literally think citizens of America shouldn't be involved in public policy in any way.
Or that they're too stupid to be able to do their own research and make up their own mind so that they have to be told what to do. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. And it's been encouraging to see how pastors have embraced this. Another pastor, it's a pastor of a large church, I sent him a note, hey, would you like me to bring you over a box of hot cards? His response was, our congregation seems to respond to emails when I put stuff in email. So it's already been planned to be in my weekly email. So I'm sending it out to the congregation that they use it. So
nice. Yeah, my pastor did the same.
One other thing we should probably let people know about this, when we talk about this being nonpartisan and nonprofit, we're not kidding. There are no records that are being collected here to be dumped to somebody's secretive dark money, party-driven, get this party over the finish line or get this candidate over the finish line. This is all done completely 100% with charitable dollars, a lot of small donations, and people, because they just want a clean site of information that isn't being backdoor farmed into one of the political parties. I mean, we've had people come by and offer us pretty serious money to turn it partisan. And we said, no, there's the door. Thank you very much. That's that. There are other people that are willing to make that trade. That's their business. Yeah. That's not what we do.
Yeah,
because we want people, especially young people who are just learning, we want them to experience what it's like to have a free mind, to be a free agent, to be able to say, I can vote for who I want to vote for the reasons that I want to vote for that person. And that's the future of the country.
It is. And the more educated we are on those issues, maybe the more we can realize we agree a lot more than we disagree. And we can keep the political fighting to a minimum instead of trying to always talk down to one another and call names.
Well, and if, we ended up having to do a lot more fighting. This is still a cooler site, don't you think?
Oh, it's a much cooler site. I mean, because you're going to have all the facts on what you want to fight about. You're not just going to have talking points. You're going to have facts and information.
It's a fair fight.
Yeah, it's a fair fight. Make sure you use it.
The conversations are just getting started. To get connected, check out 1850mainstreet.com. And to get the facts on the candidates and issues that are going to be on your ballot this November, visit iVoters.com and enter your address and zip code. No name, no phone number, and no email address required. We don't want your personal information and we don't want your money. We want you to be well informed. So please share this podcast and iVoters.com with a friend today so they too can vote with confidence and encourage others to do the same. Thanks for stopping by today. We'll see you next time here at 1850 Main Street.